to another LEGO Ninjago Dragons Rising commentary video, where I will be sharing some of the small details I've noticed while watching Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 1, Episode 4 in 0.25xSpeed. I will also be sharing some of my opinions about the episode as I go along through it, and at the end of the episode I will give it a rating based upon my own Ninjago scale. Anyway, let's get into the video. This episode starts off with Lloyd, Sora, Frack, and Ryu, their little ninja group, as they keep following the trail of Aaron and Roz. We don't actually see the trail, but let's assume that it's there. Noticing it gets dark, the group actually decides to camp for the night, which we that's where their little portion ends, and we actually catch back up with Zane and Xanth as they go down that right path, and they move across the first realm. As they do so, they decide to take flight, and while they do, we can see that this landscape has a lot of these weird sort of like oval shaped rocks. These of course look very similar to the like oval stone carvings that we saw in the Dragonian village as well as in the cave. Anyway, as the two continue on, they stumble upon yet another monastery. Mysterious why there's all these monasteries in all these different realms. However, this one is in the first realm. Interestingly, we can see that in this monastery, the things surrounding the portal gate are very, I don't know how to put it, but they remind me of the Samurai X suit and the Samurai X cave, which is very intriguing, seeing as the direction this episode goes. Anyway, he investigates the monastery, and he hears as it begins to open, and he decides to take cover. Meanwhile, wrapped in a group of rogue dragon hunters, now calling themselves freebooters, come out of the gate with a capsule that looks very similar to the one that we found Zane in. Perhaps this container has Pixel in it. Making himself known, Zane decides to fight the group and seemingly scans the pod, saying it cannot be, so I'm pretty sure it's Pixel, because his reaction is very oh, finally, and he's been searching for Pixel for quite a while. As Zane follows the group, he sees that they actually loaded onto a train, and this train is the same one that we saw in the very first episode of Dragons Rising that Lloyd found Aaron in. However, this train is not on its track, and Zane actually has to use Xanth to catch up with it. And as he does so, Zane jumps onto it and jumps down into it, and he begins to search for the capsule. While he does this, we can actually see this box of jewels that looks very similar to the one that the Cyclops had in the previous episode. Now, this could simply just be the animators saving time by using the same model that they already had. However, maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it is the exact same box and the freebooters looted it from the Cyclops after the situation we saw last episode, showing that they are in the background. Also, we can see a bunch of different Ninjago stuff, from this Merlopian trident over in the right to a dancing toaster that we've seen quite a few times, to this little ladybug up here on top of this box. Also, while Zane runs through the train car searching for the capsule, he seemingly passes a prismatic blade resting in a barrel. This is important and will come into play later in the story. Next in the scene, we actually see as Zane finds the pod and plugs it in, and before he does, we see this poster on the wall that looks like it's for the mech races that Aaron and Sora took place in, once again at the start of Dragons Rising. And as he plugs in the capsule, it opens, and like Zane was inside, Pixel falls out into his arms, and just like she thinks that it has been mere moments since the merge, and he informs her that it has been months, doing this weird little show, doing all the impressions of all the new ninja, kind of catching her up with the whole situation. Meanwhile, we see a scene in the crossroads, a very short scene, where this Serpentine at this shop, a shop called Shade, with a banner that says Grand Opening Sale, he actually just moves to the back of his shop with some inventory, and while he does so, we can see this book in the corner called Borg Brand, possibly hinting towards Cyrus Borg's inclusion. We know that Pixel was included in this episode. Who knows, maybe they will introduce Cyrus Borg here soon. Going behind this store, Serpentine meets up with Rogue, and we can see that on the front of his shirt, he actually has the writing RJ on him. I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean, and I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Handing him the chalice, Rogue actually calls it an Oni chalice or a rare Oni chalice, indicating that it actually belonged to their heritage. This, of course, makes sense as it was found in the first realm. It has tusks, it has these red glowing eyes. These are all signs and traits of the Oni. Meanwhile, back on the train, after Zane and Pixel catch up on everything that she missed, they get attacked by Rapton and the freebooters. Using his elemental ice, Zane actually just fogs up the room and they sneak out, not dealing with the conflict too much. However, as they attempt to see, we can see that Noct and 5 Dragonian warriors are heading towards the train, presumably after the Spectral Blade. As he enters the train, he instructs his Dragonian warriors to find it, and they begin searching the train, till eventually he finds it on the floor. And reaching to grab it, he attempts to snatch it, but instead Zane does, and begins fighting him, ending with him dropping the blade, allowing a Dragonian warrior to grab it. However, luckily Pixel gets it back immediately, and then immediately leaves the train. I'm honestly a little disappointed Zane didn't leave the train immediately. He had the opportunity. However, chasing after her, Noct once again ends up getting it back. They kind of just play back and forth here with the Spectral Blade. However, he also strikes the train, making it go uncontrollably quick, making the controls freak out. This, of course, leads to Zane plugging himself in as Noct gets away with the blade. And this, of course, leads to a fake death out scene with Pixel and Zane. I personally don't really like this. I like the whole thing of Pixel thinks she lost him after just being awakened. However, we've seen so many death scenes with Zane at this point that it's just like, he's okay. We get it. He will return. However, the next scene we get is one that takes place in the Merlopian village that rests on the water that we have previously saw with the giant crab monster, Aaron and Lloyd, as they were searching for the dragon core. And flying into the area, Rox the Forbidden Five retrieves the tooth from that crab monster we previously saw that kept him vicious and giant, and we see as she breaks it open and retrieves a Spectral Blade from inside. Honestly, I would like to rate this episode a solid 6 out of 10. It's not as good as the other episodes. I honestly think that this episode had a lot of filler and honestly took the plot and halted it a bit, literally with a train. And sure, this Forbidden Five got their hands on not only one, but two of their first Spectral Blades. However, I feel like they could have added way more to adding to the story as to why the freebooters had the Spectral Blade. For instance, they had an entire episode for the crab monster. They could have had some area or some inclusion of a past story where the Spectral Blade would have come from. And I honestly just think that this whole story was side-plotted with the story of Pixel returning and the fake death out scene with Zane, which they didn't even do that great. That said, I do enjoy the episode. I do not think there are any really bad episodes of LEGO Ninjago, other than maybe Season 11. However, I think that this episode could have a lot better things to do, and, that said, I still enjoy it, and I'm excited to see what is to come next. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.